Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Indoor Air Quality. I'm your host, Kyle Knappenberger. We kind of have a special show today, and it's very timely because of all that is going on out in the west coast of the United States. We're going to actually have today's topic really focus in on wildfires. We've got wildfires raging all over the west, California, Oregon, Washington, just about everywhere, and there is a lot of chemicals and pollution coming from these events. And today we have a very special guest who's been on our program before, Debra Lynn Dadd, who is a toxic-free product expert. Debra, welcome to the show.
Hi, Kyle. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, absolutely. You're actually kind of right in the middle of this. You're currently safe, and my understanding is the fires are getting close to you, but you're okay right now. But last summer we're going on. They were right up against your back door, weren't they?
Well, almost. I mean, we couldn't see flames, but we were like within 5 miles of people being evacuated. And so we were doing things like continuously spraying our house with water and things like that, because just a shift of the wind and our house could have burned and we'd be out. And so we were really in the zone of where we were getting a lot of smoke. And the biggest problem for us was that even though we weren't in the fire, we had smoke right out our windows. We couldn't leave our windows open. There was a night where I actually had to evacuate because I couldn't be, there was so much smoke. So it wasn't because of fire, but because of smoke that I had to evacuate. And I'd like to talk a little bit more about that because last year I did have an air filter, but I didn't have one of your air filters. And I have one now. I have the EnviroKlenz Mobile unit because it makes such a difference to be prepared. I remember waking up in the middle of the night last year and I couldn't breathe. We had all the windows closed. Enough smoke was coming in that I could barely breathe. And I had to just throw clothes on and run to the car. And we drove to the beach, but by the next morning, the smoke had reached the beach. So we couldn't even go to the beach. We were trying to figure out what direction are we going to go. If we go north or south, it's like we're trying to outrun this smoke. And that was the case for a lot of people in the San Francisco Bay Area last year. It hasn't been this bad this year yet. But the Carr fire in Mendocino County is like one of the biggest fires we've ever had. So we really don't know.
Mm-hmm. Our company, we're getting just all sorts of calls on this because it's everywhere. And actually the smoke particulates have even made their way to where I am in Kansas. They've really got.
I heard on the news that they were in Ireland.
Yeah, they get high up into the air. They follow the jet stream, and then they've circled back down here into the Midwest. And that's particulates, but the smoke is more than just particulates. There's a lot of different chemicals and chemistry involved in wildfire smoke. There's the corrosive gases, there's the small particulate matter, you've got hydrocarbons, fats, oils, resins and waxes. Really the chemistry is pretty broad for all the different things that are coming from these things. And, a lot of times people think of, burning forests down, but there's a lot of man-made items that are being destroyed and wiped out with these fires as well. And that's, putting a lot of variety of chemistry into the air that folks.
Actually, burning houses are much more toxic than burning forest fires because of all those synthetic materials. And there's been a lot of studies done about what happens when household goods burn. And I've seen some really interesting videos comparing how things used to be with the old materials before we started having everything be plastic versus the materials that are in homes now and how fast they catch on fire. And the emissions that come out of those burning plastics are really terrible.
Plastics, synthetics, mattresses, PVC pipe, there's just a whole host of terrible chemicals that as those things burn, they're released or generated as the byproduct of that mechanism.
The other day, I went to a doctor appointment, and by the time I came out of the doctor appointment, and as I was trying to walk to my car, like particles, not just little tiny particles, large particles of like soot and things that had been burning. They were just like hitting my body. And this is from a fire that's, miles away. Mm-hmm. And all of these things are from burning houses. It smelled like tar smoke, and which is very different from the way it smells if it's a forest fire smell.
What are the local authorities? What did they say last year? What are they telling the people near you? What are their recommendations, and what are they suggesting to homeowners right now?
Actually, they're not telling us anything this year. Last year, because the fire was closer into, I'm in Sonoma County. The fires this year are basically in Mendocino County, are the closest ones. But it's still the San Francisco Bay Area. I mean, everybody in the whole entire San Francisco area is getting the smoke. Last year, there was a big deal about wearing these little masks, these particulate masks, but they didn't tell you any guidelines about how to choose the right mask. And so you would go into every store and there'd be these little white masks. And a lot of times they'd be sold out and you'd have to wait for your mask to come in and things like that. No recommendations about air filters. They just say, stay inside, we're having a high pollution day. And I can just tell you that from all the research that I've done on air pollution in the last 40 years, that's not enough. It's not enough.
Yeah, the traditional face masks will get particulates, but they just don't do much for the chemical pollution.
Right.
I mean, stopping particulates is very important in this because they can obviously carry a lot of those chemicals. But it's here, this little video loop here. I don't know if it's from the current fires or a previous fire, but it's putting off quite a few different things, and there's particulates down to 0.3 microns, which that stuff gets into homes, and the standard EPA recommendation, of course, has been change your home's air filters and stay indoors, because that does help to some degree, but it's often not quite enough.
It's not quite enough because, Kyle, you can probably explain this better than I can. Would you just explain the difference between the size of a particle and the size of a gas?
The particles are often larger than just the toxic chemical vapors. The vapors are smaller. They often will go through a traditional home's HVAC air filtration system. Even if you have something that's like a MERV 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or some folks even have, MERV 12, 13s or something like that in their homes. Those will get down to about 0.3 microns, or low microns or just under the submicron levels, but the vapors and the gases are going to pass right through that. And that's where advanced technology really can start to help individuals that are in these types of settings to address the other component of the pollution problem. It is multifaceted. There's the solid material, and then there's the vapors and gases. And I think this is actually a kind of a good image here that we have in the webinar right now is Larry, and you guys have the face masks on them that are both particulate and the chemical and vapor removing technology from EnviroKlenz. How did those work for you?
They worked much better than the little white paper ones. And when we started having a problem here last year, I just called you all up right away and said, please send me face masks, because I know the difference between a gas and a particle. And I knew that we had to, what happens when you breathe in a gas is that it immediately goes into your lungs and into your body in like seconds, like all through your body, these toxic chemicals when you breathe them in. And that's true whether you're breathing them in as part of indoor air pollution or as part of smoke from wildfires. Unless you have a mask or a filter that is specifically removing the gases, then you're breathing them. You're breathing them. And when I go to a store like a big box store and I look at their air filters, none of them are removing gases. None. Absolutely zero. And so if somebody is concerned about this, and every single person should be concerned about it, even if you're in good health, these are the kinds of toxic gases that can really make you sick in a big way. And And so you really need to make sure that if there's an air pollution emergency, like a wildfire and the smoke, or if you're living in a home and you haven't done anything to remove those toxic chemical gases, you really need an air filter. For many, many years, I had always felt, and I always said, I don't think that everybody needs an air filter, because what I want you to do is I want you to remove the source of pollution at the source. So instead of using toxic cleaning products, for example, I want people to use non-toxic cleaning products. Don't use toxic cleaning products, and use an air filter. But what I've learned is that most people, it's like what I was doing at the time I was saying that, is that I was living remotely in places where there wasn't much pollution in the outdoor air. I was using totally non-toxic products, and now I'm living in suburbia, and there's wildfires next door, and I do need an air purifier, but every single person living here needs an air purifier. If you're in those kinds of circumstances, where you're living in a place where it's likely that there will be some kind of chemical interruption, like a chemical spill, or somebody's going to light their barbecue with lighter fluid or something like that, I'm really happy now that I have your mobile unit, because if somebody lights up their barbecue, all I need to do is turn on the mobile unit.
Yeah, that's a really good point about, you can control what you bring into your home, but you can't always control where you live or who lives next to you or what's, being recirculated in your home. You can't create a pure bubble that's only yours.
There's so many ways that we can end up being exposed to these toxic chemicals that we have no control over. And if you have an air purifier, especially if you have one that is really super duper heavy duty, takes out everything kind of air purifier, you can then go put yourself in your own house or your own room. There's an air filter there, and you're protected. I really didn't know how much peace of mind I would have until my air filter arrived. And I breathed a sigh of relief, and I said, okay, it can burn all at once. I'll still be able to breathe.
Yeah, you need to have good air quality, and when you're in an area and you just can't control every aspect of it, whether that's particulates or the chemicals, you having something that can do that, and like for those of you watching the webinar version, we just had the EnviroKlenz Mobile Air System on screen, and that particular unit addresses the two major things that you need to look at when you're dealing with air quality, the volatile organic chemicals or other chemicals and pollutants. VOCs, of course, is a broad category, but it's still focused in on some of those. And then the particulates. And this particular EnviroKlenz Mobile Air System is good at both. And that's what kind of separates it from a lot of the traditional fans or HEPA-like devices out there, or desktop air purifiers, is they all focus in on the particulates, and they tend to neglect the chemistry involved. And the human body is pretty good at getting a lot of particulates out. It may not be a pleasant way to do it, but as the particulates start to get smaller and smaller, and you need the HEPA filter to get that, to prevent that from getting into your body. But along with those particulates, there's a lot of chemicals involved. And these two charts here show what, over the course of just 3 days of an EnviroKlenz air system in about a 20 by 20 area could do. It brought down the VOCs, brought down the particulates, kept them down, and that's how that works. And that really goes back to, I think, Deborah, it really ties into what you were saying about when you were near the fires, you could, and your experience there is that it was impacting your lifestyle, your body. How have some of the other folks that you've talked with, how was the fires or their experience with good quality air purification helped them out?
Well, I have one reader in particular. I've known her for a very long time, and she wrote to me and she told me that she has purchased every air filter there is practically over a course of like 20 years. And occasionally she also lives in a non-toxic house. And And she said that occasionally there will be some kind of chemical spill outside the house that comes in, or like now she's getting the smoke from this year's fires where she lives. She doesn't live anywhere near them, but she's getting the smoke. And she said that she starts turning on different ones, and then and they don't work. And finally, she turned on last year. This happened last year. She turned on your mobile unit, and it was the only filter that she had out of all the filters that she had purchased that actually removed enough of the pollutants that she could breathe and feel comfortable. So much so that at the beginning of fire season this year, she wrote and she said, everybody needs to have this filter, because even if you aren't sensitive or allergic or asthmatic or any of those things, you still need to protect your health and you need to protect your children. It's a bit of an investment, but it costs so much less than losing your health. And, you know, it's just, I can't say enough about how well designed your unit is, because I've been looking at air filters for 40 years, and this is just in a class by itself. And it does, I mean, here's a person who gets very sick from smoke, and this is her filter of choice because she feels totally safe being in a room with this filter with the smoke right outside our window.
And we've really been getting a lot of questions from listeners out west of late about our mobile air system, our EnviroKlenz product line, and then our HVAC air filters, because this problem with these wildfires this year, it just seems like it is impacting such a huge area. And if you have any questions, you know, feel free to reach out to us at EnviroKlenz. We can be reached online at EnviroKlenz.com. That's EnviroKlenz.com. We can be reached over the phone at 239-330-9650, over email at custserv, CUSTSERV @Timilon, that's TIMILON.com. And we even have chat features on our website, and you're always welcome to reach out to us, see how potentially the EnviroKlenz line of products can help you out, especially if you're in these wildfire areas. And Debra, I really want to thank you for joining us today. You've been a wonderful product expert, come on our show before, and we really appreciate you with the timeliness of these wildfires, being able to share what you experienced unfortunately last summer and what you hope doesn't escalate for you personally as the heat and the fires rage on this summer.
Well, we'll see. I mean, last summer we didn't really have a problem till the end of September, and we're still in August. So now is the time to prepare. Fire season, there's still many weeks of it left, and we still have fires burning out of control. And I think it's only going to get worse before it gets better. So I just want, you know, I grew up a Girl Scout, and the Girl Scout motto is be prepared. And I think a lot of times unexpected catastrophes happen to people, and they seem like they're unexpected, but there's so much we can do to prepare so that either the emergency doesn't happen or we're ready for it. And even in other places, because the smoke is moving, as I said, all the way to Europe now. And I remember reading accounts of volcanoes where the dust and the smoke and everything from volcanoes just encircled the globe, and it was dark for weeks. And these things in the air do move globally. And so it's not just about what's happening down the street or out your window or in your house. You could be getting toxic exposures from anywhere. And that being the case, I do think every household needs an air purifier as a safety measure, just like we all have refrigerators. We should all have air purifiers.
Well said. Well, again, Debra, thank you for joining us. And hopefully we don't have to keep talking to you about widespread disasters, but we'd be happy to have you on the show sometime, maybe talk about something a little more lighthearted. Well, thank you very much, Debra.
Thank you.